Visual semiotics theory. Films use semiotics most widely wherever it is in the West or the East, but how these semiotics are negotiated for each film is an interesting subject. There are some universal semiotics that relate to film shots and angles. At the same time, countries like India have their own meanings for some of the shots which form a common language for any film of any country, let alone India. The most difficult part of the semiotics is to relate them to the nativity, culture and tradition of a particular country. Especially a country like India poses a formidable challenge for Western filmmakers, as it is not easy for them to negotiate the meanings of Indian film frames. Those who are not good and conversant in India's ancient culture, tradition, epics and ethos cannot easily correlate the semiotics of the given film in India. In this lesson, you would learn about the experience from the findings of the Western scholars Sandra Moriarty. To inform the learner about the communication aspect of a sign, to educate the learner about the communication of non-verbal signs, to make the learner aware of the role of non-verbal signs in communication. Semiotics is the study of signs and codes, signs that are used in producing, conveying and interpreting messages, and the codes that govern their use. Jacobson used a broad definition when he says that semiotics is the communication of any message whatever. Sebeok defined semiotics more tightly as the exchange of any messages whatever and the system of signs or codes which underlie them. Fiske added the idea of generation of meaning to this definition. Messages therefore can be seen as made of signs and conveyed through sign system called codes. In communication, meaning is derived only to the degree that the receiver of the message understands the code. Semiotics and semiology are two different but related approaches to the theory of significance, how these sign systems and codes work. Researchers in semiotics come from the varied areas such as communication, linguistics, anthropology, film study, literature and marketing, as well as the natural sciences, where sign systems are studied in such areas as cellular biology and zoology. In semiotic theory, a sign is anything that stands for something else, that is, a sign stands for an object or a concept. The Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure, who is known as the father of European semiology, expressed this relationship in his quotes in general linguistics as marriage between a sound or an image called a signifier and the concept for which it stands called the signified. The signifier is the form in which the content is expressed in the word, sound, picture, smell or gesture. In explaining his theory of how the sign relationships works, Saussure used a tree and a drawing of a tree to both function as signifiers for the concept of treeness, which he referred to as arbor. Saussure explained the closeness or coherence of these relationships with the metaphor of a sheet of a paper as illustrates. He said the paper itself was like one side of this sheet being the signified and the other side being the signifier. Note that in his model both visual and verbal communication are equally represented as signifiers. As he develops his theories further, as we will see later in the discussion, his work becomes more highly logo centric and he uses language as a preferred model for any sign system, a viewpoint that privileges language at the expense of other sign systems, particularly visual perception and communication. At the same time, around the beginning of the 20th century, as Saussure was developing his ideas of semiosis, American Charles S. Percy was working on his model of knowledge and the new way reality and the way reality is presented in mind and thought. Percy concluded in the collected papers that reality can only be known through representation via signs, further that this signifying activity can best be explained through a three-part model of sign, interpretant and object. The sign is equivalent to the Saussure's signifier and the object is similar to Saussure's concept. The interpretant is the ideal evoked in person's mind by sign. An association of personal experience, for example, contributes to interpretation of the word tree. I see aspens, a poplar tree with small rounded long stalked leaves that tremble in the breeze, in the fall turning gold. Someone else might see a new spring green seedling being planted, a brilliant red or orange maple in the fall, or a stand of evergreen against a backdrop of snow. These personal responses affect our interpretation of the sign and its object and lead to the individualized interpretations. Saussure's work was based in linguistics and his semiotical contributions are important to critical analysis of how meaning operates in text. Percy's work, which became known as semiotics, although he never used the term, is even broader because of its epistemological focus. When Terence Hux, in his analysis of theory of science, declared that logic is only another name for semiotic, the formal doctrine of science, he reflected Percy's larger concern for the important role science play in the way we know things and think about things rather than just talk about them. And because of Percy's emphasis on representation as a key element in how a sign stands for its object, semiotics has become particularly useful to visual communication scholars, who are by definition scholars and students of representation. Now, let us see how different scholars have described this relationship between the signifier and the signified besides signification in different ways. Percy, for example, used another triad, iconic, indexical and symbolic, to explain the nature of the relationships they identified for signs depicted in table 15.1. An iconic sign is mimetic and resembles its object as a photograph does. It can be an indicator or material trace of its object. Indexical, such as smoke, indicates fire, or it can be connected to its object solely by convention, as a flag symbolizes a country. Note how easy it is to analyze visuals using Persian approach. These three types of sign relationships lend themselves so easily to an explanation of how visual signs operate that Percy's explanation of sign relationships are essentially all visual. One might conclude that for Percy, visual communication is the underlying or master model for thought rather than verbal language. It is important to note that a sign can have various facets of these three types of meaning relationships. In addition to analyzing the type of sign relationship, semiotic scholars also consider several other important aspects of sign relationship. At the heart of a theory of signs is the notion of oppositions and their role in creating meaning. The difference between motivated and unmotivated relationships and the difference between connotative and denotative meanings are also important points of analysis in semiotic theory. At its most basic, the logic of sign relationship from a Saussurean or structuralist perspective is based on a pattern of oppositions. As Buffalotto explained, meaning is derived in terms of this is not that. This is also the other logic behind meaning, as well as formal definition, which is a structure of similarity and difference. That is, to define something, you state what category it belongs to, and then you delimit the definition by indicating what is not included. The oppositional structure contribute to meaning based on the same logic. You can understand pretty only by understanding ugly. So, a sign, particularly a visual sign, defines what something is, but also what it is not. The relational structure is what it makes possible to communicate rich relative to poor with a simple picture of a status item such as mansion. Meaning emerges through the play of difference between these oppositions. Saussure, in his course in general linguistics, saw the relationship between signifier and signified as arbitrary and motivated, meaning that there is no natural connection between the two linguistics. A word, for example, except perhaps for onomatopoeia, which means identifying something based on a sound, has no connection with its concept. It is an arbitrary assignment that has to be learned in visual communication. Only symbolic visual signs would meet Saussure's criteria for signification. Because he privileges language with its inherent arbitrariness as his model sign system, Saussure's logocentricity limits the usefulness of his approach for visual communications scholars, because so many visual signs are unmotivated, that is natural and similar to their object. As Russian scholar Jacobson admitted in his critique of Saussure's approach, Percy's schema is more flexible because it allows for the unmotivated signification, such as that conveyed in iconic and indexical sign of relationships. Semiologist Roland Barthes and cultural studies theorist Stuart Hall have extended the concepts of signified, SD and signifier to include connotation and denotation. Denotation is the direct, specific or literal meaning we get from a sign. It is a description or the representation of the signified, that is language or a visual, specially about the object. Connotation is meaning that is evoked by the object, that is what it symbolizes on a subjective level. In Barth's work, connotation reflects cultural meanings, mythologies and ideologies. A connotative meaning is the cultural baggage attached to or associated with the object. It is derived from the past experience or repeated associations between a sign and its object. Barthes' theory is that there is a first and second level of meaning. Denotation is the starting point meaning making, then shifts to second level where connotation takes over and delivers a richer experience of the meaning by engaging precise interpretants. Denotation and connotation are both used in visual communication. Clearly, an iconic image such as portrait denotative lifestyle advertising, however, is an example of an arena where visual association is used to rapidly convey connotations. A product such as a car is the first of all the denotative level, certain makes of car with certain specific features. On the second or connotative level, it is depicted as associated with a big house, elegant clothes or an expensive meal to connote such things as quality, good taste, premium price, status. Another product, a soft drink, is a particular type of beverage with a specific type of flavor. In advertising, a huge part of the message is conveyed through connotations that are delivered visually in the subtle ways to extend what on its face appears to be a simple delivery of simple message. Most of these connotative meanings operate in the non-verbal mode. The objective of analyzing signification is to determine meaning or a set of meanings. The process of creative meaning is essentially that of locating or identifying the signified, that is the concept based on the cues given by the signifier, the sign. In a deterministic philosophy, the encoding is a process of reading sense data, a set of natural signs that represent true conditions. In these empirical traditions, language and other mediated signs can be literally true and the observer of sign simply reacts to it. But the meaning making process is more complex than the simple definition of a word or decipherment of a code, particularly for visual signs. The concept of a process of perception adds points where individual factors such as relevance operate on the intended meaning. This subjectivity is further affected by social conditioning. Signification then is a complex process with various steps and levels, all of which offer points for individual personalization of the meaning by the receiver. Signification then can be analyzed initially as a process of change and shifts. One characteristic of the signification process is its ability to extend meaning either through the notion of the interpretant or the play of connotations. Typically, what results from signification is a plurality of the meanings. There may be one preferred reading, that is that intended by the creator of the message, but there are often other meanings and levels of meaning that are created as the message is decoded by a recipient. That occurs for two reasons, either through the multiplication of signifiers or signifieds. Barthes referred to one type of plurality of signs as signifiers that float above the signified, with the concept refusing to be anchored or constrained. In other words, there are a lot of ways to express an idea or depict something. Likewise, signifiers can also be interpreted in multiple ways. An example explained by Berger, doodles, which are simple drawings that can be read to mean many different things. The notion of plurality also suggests a chain of signification, the means by which these multiple signifieds and signifiers come to exist. Delay describes meaning making as a dynamic view of signification as a process. Percy explained that the meaning making process is an infinite process of interpretation, what Eco called are unlimited semiotics. Eco explained that because of similarities and resemblances, everything can be connected with everything else, so that everything can be either the expression or the content of any or the content of any other things. He also called this interpretive approach hermetic drift, variously called transactions or commutations by other scholars. This notion of chains, similar to how free association works. In this process, a sign that functions as a signified then becomes a signifier that leads to other signifieds. This continues in an endless process of associational shifts. Derrida described the process of signification as leading from a signified that turns out to be another signifier in a process of endless chaining. Signifier leads to signified to signifier to signified to signifier. That means it continues in chain. In addition to pluralities and chains, the process of signification also involves mental shift of several kinds. The first, as can be seen in the chain above, is a shift of focus from a signifier to its signified as the recipient of a message searches for meaning. However, that can also involve a shift of form, say from an image to a word to the underlying concept, idea or thought. Meaning making also involves a shift between the signified and the interpretant as the interpreter searches for the meaning of a sign. According to Barthes, these shifts occur at a denotative level. However, as the interpretant process begins, then a more complex series of connotative shifts take over. As mentioned earlier in Barthes' original writings on connotations and denotation, most signs are thought to begin at the denotative level, where the denotative signifier and the denotative signified combine as a sign unit to form the connotative signifier. Connotation, the second level, begins the process of generating additional meanings (CSD) and represents a paradigmatic shift. This is modeled in figure 15.4 and is similar to the way the interpretant functions in a precise model of a sign. For example, a photo of a house's elaborately carved wooden door may evoke not only an entry, the denotative meaning, but also wealth and art. That is, people who can afford to own such an elaborate door probably live in a fancy house and appreciate good art. Perhaps it also symbolizes the door to such aspiration for people who dream of such a lifestyle with all its attendant symbols and associations: fancy car, Rolex watch, designer clothes, servants, travel, and so on. In later work, Barthes rejects the notion that denotation always comes first and instead sees denotation as both establishing and closing the reading. Another way to express the relationship between denotative and connotative is to begin with denotation by asking what is it, as Barthes did initially, then move to connotation by asking what does it suggest, and finally wind up back at the beginning with confirmation of the denotation. In other words, using this adapted model of Barthes' work, the process of shifts as depicted in figure may be circular, with denotations both beginning and ending the process. Codes, systems of signs. Codes can be visual, road signs, sign languages, renaissance, art, verbal, pledge of allegiance, kinetic, tactile, auditor rotation, as well as use other senses. The importance of code contributes meaning to a sign, as Muffatto explained, because of its historical uses in practice, resulting in a seemingly fixed meaning which has become part of system of codes. The code fixes the meaning of a sign. A code can also be hidden or largely unnoticed, even by the people using the as to how grammar operates as the background of language. Another example of hidden code in a visual area is the film code that governs shots, camera, direction, movement, and editing. Different kinds of shots have different meanings. Photographers and film and TV directors intuitively understand this language of a film and use it deliberately to convey meanings separate from the words. A similar code governs the design principle used in the graphic arts. The conventions of a genre, soap opera, documentary, western, science fiction are also codes that define a type of communication. Semiotics scholars analyze these codes as a way of foregrounding the surreptitious signifying event, which brings the unnoticed code to the surface, adding another layer of meaning to the interpretation of the passage. This discussion of codes as sets of signs bring us to a problem in the discussion of semiotics, particularly visual semiotics, and that is the tangle of language-based terminology needed to express the ideas and theories about how signification works. Signs are variously referred to as words, visuals, or images, and although we recognize that a complex set of signs make up a sentence, photograph, painting, drawing, or movie scene, we lack in language to clearly articulate between and among these various types and levels of message carriers. Muffatto, for example, described a picture as a collection of signs placed in relationship to each other. Film scholar Gretchen Barbatsis has been laboring with that problem and has recommended using the word passage in an earlier paragraph for the complex constructions, be they verbal, visual, or moving images. A schema then for the language of semiotics, one that also separates the basic units of analysis, is as follows. Semiotic meaning is complicated by the fact that, as Jacobson noted, language is a system of systems, an overall code which includes various subcodes. That is true as well for visual messages, which are also composed of sets of signs, and these signs sets are presented according to one or more sign system or codes. A house, for example, is a sign system. It has such elements as kitchen, living room, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, garage, and basement. The kitchen, for example, encompasses various sets of codes that govern cooking, hygiene, food presentation, eating patterns, and storage. Westerners, particularly Americans, understand this schema. However, 100 years ago, an American would have a hard time understanding a garage, and a contemporary American may not have a clue about its purpose and the function of a parlor. Asians may find some of these elements just as puzzling, and no one has clearly articulated the use of a kiva in the homes and villages of the ancestral Puebloan peoples. One of Barth's most respected books, The Empire of Science, documents Japanese culture from semiotic viewpoint, analyzing the meaning of practices, activities and other forms that have almost unintelligible meanings for Westerners.